Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, Wolves fans. Welcome back to the Daily Wolves podcast. It's me, your host, Nathan, today, and I am on my own. Similar to Chris in his previous episode, it will be just me and you today, going through some of my thoughts on the weekend's game, which is, of course, a 2-1 defeat at home to the hands of Manchester City. My initial thoughts after the game was that the overall performance was pretty decent, considering, I think, the context and the previous performances, especially the one against Brentford. I think overall we did all right against a strong Manchester City team. However, I think there's always going to be that nagging feeling that we could have come away with a point if it weren't for some of the inconsistencies surrounding the VAR decisions, and it seems as though it's always to do with us. I know that's maybe a biased Wolves fan's opinion, but it seems as though the inconsistencies regarding VAR decisions seem to loop back round to the Molineux, similar to how they did last year. And I know a lot of the comparisons off the back of the Manchester City game were to the decision that was made in the West Ham game at the Molineux last year, where Kilman's header was ruled out because our striker Chiwenma was ruled to be in the eye line or distracting Fabianski, who was in goal at the time. If you are to look back at the two different incidences, it's frustrating to see that two very, very, very similar moments have been judged differently, and I think the overall feeling for all fans is the annoyance and the fact that we don't quite understand where the line is on some of these decisions. So, I mean, from my perspective, I think that the lack of consistency is the real issue, and it happens for so many different decisions. I think they've gotten slightly better, to give them a little bit of credit. I think they've gotten better at judging the handball decisions, and they've made it a little bit more clear, where they've shifted away from the fact that the arm might be in an unnatural position, and they've moved towards being a little bit more consistent around those decisions. But this one in particular, because of how similar it was to last season's decision, where what seemed to be a perfectly good goal, a perfectly good header, was ruled out because of someone being in the sort of, not even directly in the eye line between the keeper and the ball, but sort of just there, for a similar issue in the game on Sunday, where Bernardo Silva has actually made contact with Jose Sarr as the ball's coming in. Of course, he's not offside from a corner kick, but the fact that it's then stood as a goal. It's then stood as a goal, even though he's been sent to the VAR monitor, when we all seemed to think at the time that would be a sort of sign to overturn it. Well, yeah, it's frustrating again, but I've gone on a little bit of a tangent already. I've had a few notes here on what I want to cover, and I was going to try not to focus too much on that because it's been covered so much. But it is frustrating because I think a point out of that game would have been, it would have been a great point, and it would have been adding an extra point to our only one so far out of the first 8 games this season. But I wanted to cover a few positives that I thought were really good throughout the game. And starting that off with Jose Sarr in goal, who, with Sam Johnston's injury, was put in there. And I think a few Wolves fans we've doubted over the past few months his commitment to the club and his willingness to stay, with the amount of rumours in the summer about him leaving. And I think he proved a lot of us wrong with his performance on Sunday, because it was he had a fantastic game. He made a few really good stops when he was needed. I think he was unlucky with their attempt from outside the box. I think Gvardiol's hit it's a great strike, but he's got a strong hand to it, Jose Sarr. I think as he watches that back, he might feel as though he could have done a tiny bit better, considering how well he got down to some of the other powerful shots throughout that game. And overall, I think all goalkeepers, when playing against City, need to have a decent game, and I think he had more than a decent game. I think he was pretty good overall, and it definitely will hopefully bring up the standard in the goalkeeping for Sam Johnstone as well. With that sort of competition there, it's only a healthy thing, and hopefully Jose Sarr is going to be. I mean, I think in my opinion, he's done enough to sort of secure that spot heading into the next game away at Brighton. But let's see. Healthy competition is always good within a squad, especially one like ours where it's not always got as much depth in all positions that we like. And so talking of that depth, our change of formation, which Chris touched upon previously, in the previous episode, should I say, the change to the back three or back five, depending on which transition we were in. It was mostly a back five, a solid block throughout the game. I thought performed really well. I thought Santi Bueno slotted right into that back five and didn't look out of place. And I don't think many of us thought he would look out of place, but it's good to see that he was up to standard in that right centre half role alongside Ballon Dawson and Totti Gomez. It was a solid trio at the back there. And Santi Bueno obviously deserves all the praise as well for his pass out to Semedo for the Wolves opener. I think that goal is fantastic. It's brilliant, and it brings together all of the aspects that we want to see as Wolves fans. We want to see us playing out from the back, on the front foot, not afraid to whip balls into the box and have people arriving into the box. That's, I think, some of the frustration from previous regimes. Some of the one little bit that we sometimes didn't like from the Nuno era was the fact that Raul Jimenez wasn't arriving enough into the box. I know he was very successful whenever he was there, but a lot of the times he was involved a lot in the build-up, and we didn't have as much presence at times in that sort of final third and arriving into the box for crosses. But Strand Larsen has been a presence so far this season, when we give him that opportunity and we give him balls to feed off, he's been delivering, and we've been scoring. And I think that is one of the main positives we can take, and there aren't many, but one of the main ones is that we are consistently scoring goals. On the flip side of that, we are obviously consistently conceding goals as well. And as I said, that first goal, I think it's a great strike. I think maybe I'm being too critical of Sarr, but he does get an okay hand to it. Maybe he looks back at that and thinks he can get more on it. But we've also got to look at ourselves on the closing down as well. I think it's Strand Larsen who kind of dangles a leg out towards it. I think Andre can maybe do better at coming across and closing the space as well. But I guess as a positive behind that, I'm really trying to find them here, guys. As a positive behind that is that we did sort of reduce Manchester City's chances to being shots from outside the box, and I think that's something that we should be, I wouldn't say proud, but we should be content or happy with almost, is that a lot of their chances, a lot of their main highlights throughout the game came from long distance efforts, and I think that is a real positive, especially off the back of how leaky we were against Brentford and how it looked like in every attack Brentford could somehow make their way into our box and have as many touches as they liked. Obviously, Man City did spend a bit of time in our defensive third, a lot of time at that. And I think they had over 70% possession throughout the whole game pretty much. And I think that is to be expected, but I didn't expect us to defend as resolutely as we did, considering our previous performances. So overall, I do think that in itself is a small positive. With regards to keeping on the positive note, I'd kind of had a look at the first 8 games that we've had this season, and I know everyone's been talking about how we've had a difficult fixture list running into this, and feeling sorry for ourselves. And I'm not really one to want to jump quickly on that bandwagon. However, I do think it's important that we provide some perspective on those first 8 games and some perspective on how that varies to maybe other seasons where we've had easier starts. Now, okay, yes, the performances have been poor, but if we do look at those first 8 fixtures, only 2 of those teams didn't finish in the top 7 at the end of last season. So only Brentford and Forest were outside of that top 7 come the end of the 2023-2024 season. And I think that is quite an important stat in a sense, because yeah, the fixtures have been difficult. The performances haven't always been great, but that fixture list has been a tough one, and I just want to sort of put the microscope on that a little bit, because it also means that our next 10 games, and I'm going to read them out to you because I genuinely think this should be something that we're looking at and going, there's plenty of points here to be taken. And I know the confidence isn't high, but yeah, I'm trying, guys. I'm trying here with the positivity. So our next 10 games, in order, are Brighton away, Crystal Palace at home, which to me would be a must-win game. Well, I mean, all of them are now, but Crystal Palace at home with their form and their lack of points as well, we should be looking at that to win. At Southampton at home straight after that Palace game. So two massive, massive games at the Molineux back to back, followed by Fulham away. And then we come back to the Molineux with Bournemouth at home, followed by Everton away, West Ham away. Those are two slightly harder fixtures. But again, these are teams that you, as a Wolves fan, and considering the teams we've played to start off with, we should be fancying ourselves and should be having opportunities in these games to be on the front foot and try and apply the small positives that we've seen so far this season. After the West Ham away game, we've got Ipswich at home. Again, you look at that game, and I don't know how Gary O'Neill and his backroom staff do it at the start of the season, but they must look at those three fixtures in Palace, Southampton, and Ipswich at home at the Molineux. They must put 3 points next to those games where it's a must win. After that, we go to Leicester away. Again, another newly promoted side, which we should be looking to beat at their place. And then followed by that, we have United at home. And that kind of, I've put United in there as a sly dig at some of my mates, but United at home, considering their recent form as well, it should be a game that we're looking to get points out of. So, given that context and given the overall kind of tough start, I think that there's hopefully a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but it is getting to the point now where times are it is dire. We are bottom after 8 games with 1 point. I mean, let's not forget that Lopetegui came in a couple of seasons ago. Sorry, he came in a couple of seasons ago at a similar time, right before or right as we were going on to international mid-season break for the World Cup. And I might be slightly wrong on my numbers here, but I believe we had 11 points and were bottom 10 games in. It might have been the other way around. We might have had 11 games and only 10 points. But either way, we had that many. And we are currently 10 points off that point where we thought we were in the real doo-doo and we needed Lopetegui to come in and save us. So it's really, really not a great position to be in. So the points need to come, and they need to come fast, really, really fast, because the Brighton away is going to be a tough place to go, but hopefully O'Neill has the lads prepared. And that brings me on nicely to here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we also try to prepare, and we did spend a lot of time selecting our delivery platform for all of the daily podcasts that we bring to you guys. So Zencastr came out the clear winner in that provider, with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more. Also, whilst I'm talking about that, do check out our social media platforms in the show description. We've got a TikTok page as well as a Twitter, where we try and post as regularly as we can on all the Wolves news. So, bringing it back onto those fixtures there, I'm really trying to give us some positivity. I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I do think it's important that perspective is there on knowing what those fixtures are. But I will also bring us back to kind of reality now, and bring up a point that's been raised a few times before as well, is our set piece defending. I think although we can feel hard done by with the VAR decisions, John Stones it's a good header. He scored a decent goal, but we seem to always be conceding set pieces recently, and I don't know how much we're not seeing that much of a change. And I think that's the main frustration from us, is there's too many chances getting created against us from set piece scenarios, and it's something that we should really be doing way better at. But hey, hopefully Gary O'Neill's got his drawing board out and stops doing all of the zonal stuff once and for all. That would be a great change in things. Another positive, however, on my little list of notes here is Strand Larsen overall, as a performance, but also as a season so far. I think for the little chances that he's had, because when you go through long spells of games, especially against City, and you have so few opportunities to be involved, when he has been involved, I do think overall it's been sort of had a net positive effect, if we want to talk in fancy words. I think some of his build-up play has been really positive. I think his link-up with Cunha at times has been really good. And he, in my opinion, allows Cunha to express himself going forwards. Cunha's been at his best when he can obviously run with the ball at pace, beat players, and have that sort of influence on teams where he's drawing fouls and creating opportunities through his speed and explosivity. And I think he's able to do that when there's a focal point up front. I think Cunha's influence on games is reduced when we see players like Guedes come on, or players like Hwang, where there's not as much of a target to sort of distract those centre halves, because Guedes and Hwang tend to spend a little bit of time. They don't like the physical stuff, and rightfully so. If they're playing up top against 6'4" centre backs, they're not going to win those physical battles. So when that happens, those centre halves are looking to really push on and put pressure on Cunha, who often plays. If he's not playing off the last man, he's playing in that sort of number 10 pocket role in and around the striker. So I do think that Strand Larsen and Cunha link up could be our saviour this season. It could be something that, well, it is them that we're turning to hopefully bring us goals and bring us wins, really, because we need it. We need it badly. And I think Strand Larsen has got potential to hopefully keep on growing and keep having that influence and that good link up play with Cunha. Another player that I'd hopefully can develop a little bit more is Rodrigo Gomez. I think he's one that has come in at the start of the season, and he was quiet in some games. He showed little spells against Arsenal where he looked like he had some initiative, but ultimately got bullied off the ball quite a few times. But I'm really hoping that the recruitment that's been done on him has been the right one. He does offer depth, and he's offers something slightly different. He's obviously the word I would use is nippy. He's kind of a nippy winger who's quick off the mark. And the only worry I have for him is if he doesn't start adding a different element to that Wolves bench, so a different impact off the bench to Carlos Forbes. I don't see Rodrigo Gomez getting involved as much going forward. So I'm really hoping that he brings something in the coming games and the thick run of fixtures that we've got coming up, where we need to pick up results. We really do. And that I think brings a nice recap to the episode today. I also wanted to let you guys know that this podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, something that I'm sure you guys are aware of, but it is the only podcast network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. That's the Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day. And on that note, guys, I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday and a good end to your week. We will be back very soon. Hopefully it won't be just one of us. We do have depth here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, but also at Daily Wolves. And I will see you very, very soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.